Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 102. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. Today, we have an incredible guest, someone who embodies discipline, resilience, and the warrior mindset, which I know is very intriguing to a lot of our listeners. Roman is a former U.S. Army Ranger, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, a fitness and health coach who has dedicated his life to helping others grow stronger, not just on the mats, but in life. And I'm looking forward to being able to learn from him today. On this episode, we're going to dig into Roman's journey, what his childhood was like, his transition into the military, what he learned as a Ranger in some of the toughest environments in the world, how he found Jiu-Jitsu, how Jiu-Jitsu gave him a new battlefield for growth, and the lessons he carries into leadership, family, and everyday life. If you're looking for insights on discipline, ownership, and what it really takes to push past your limits, I feel that you guys are going to get a ton of value out of this conversation. Roman, I'm fired up to have you on the podcast, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Awesome. Lucas, how are you?
You know, I'm recovering from Jiu-Jitsu Con. That's what I'm redoing.
Yeah, Roman, we had a really cool opportunity with a company called Fighters Passport, and they are big supporters of the Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu ministry that Lucas and I are a part of, and they gave us a booth setup at Jiu-Jitsu Con to help grow the ministry through exposure and retail sales, which was a huge blessing.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
It was pretty awesome. All right, Roman, for those of, like, if someone doesn't know you, they don't know your story, and if you're meeting somebody, let's say we're flying on a plane together or we meet, randomly, how do you introduce yourself? Like, how do you tell people who you are and what you do currently?
Well, right now it's a little awkward because I have to admit that I do social media for a job. Um, but if I had
Awesome.
to give like a little rundown of, who I am or what I do, yeah, you hit a couple of them in the introduction. So I was a former Army Ranger. I served in the 75th Ranger Regiment for a few years.
That's good.
Following that, I went to college and graduated with a finance degree. And during college, I found like a strong passion for jiu-jitsu. So I was competing a lot and kind of then locally, regionally, but never quite cracking the pans or kind of world stage of competition. And so I ended up moving to Austin, Texas to train under Jon Danaher to pursue that, and kind of try to be a professional grappler.
Nice.
And I trained my butt off for a year and a half under him. I did pretty well on the competition scene. I ended up taking a silver medal at Nogi Worlds at brown belt.
Nice.
But then I was forced out of competition for a little bit and injured my knee, where I had to get surgery, which is what prompted me to start posting on social media. And once I started posting on social media, that kind of took off, and I started a business of online training people. I've been training people in person when I was in college to, earn some extra money on the side. But I ended up taking, my decade of training experience and everything, started that business, which has just kind of led to, and social media's kind of just led to tons of different opportunities for me. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now, and a little bit about my background.
I love it. Yeah. I remember when I first actually came across your Instagram page, it was in my algorithm. And as I was looking at your page and my page and the interests that I have, I was like, okay, this guy is awesome. Obviously, it's very apparent that you are very physically fit, very healthy, very strong. Saw that you did jiu-jitsu. Army Ranger, I was like, oh, dude, like this is my guy. These are the type of people I like to have in my life. And I was the first video was somebody. It was a clip that you edited, and it was somebody that was basically talking trash on how you were lifting and trying to say that if you did certain things, you would be a better athlete. And then you showed a clip from their page, and it was somebody who is not in shape, who is not strong, who is struggling to lift minimal weight. And I love the way you handled it. It was reminded me of like before Echelon Front, my social media, where I would just get a little wild out there. But what I did like is you keep it professional though. You have fun with it. I can definitely tell. I was like, okay, he definitely has the veteran aspect to him of, hey, I'm not going to put up with like just BS. And you called him out in I thought was pretty funny manner. But then as I started digging more, I was really intrigued by your mindset for lifting and competition. And I think, it was a few weeks. I was just looking at some more videos, and I reached out asking you to be on the podcast, because that's what I really want our listeners is to be able to understand is your mindset. And, most of us as humans are molded by our childhood,
Yes.
good or bad. And if you had a good childhood, we build upon it. If we didn't have a good childhood, we decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to change things and I want to go down this different path. I was very fortunate. I had a great childhood, great parents who instilled us with values of hard work and discipline and a strong faith background and, service to your nation and taking care of people and helping people. So I was fortunate that I had that. And I know not everybody does. And we've had some listeners on here where their childhoods were there's times where Lucas and I literally have tears running down our face listening to their childhood because I couldn't fathom what that would be like, or I couldn't fathom doing that to my kids. And I'm just thankful that I had great parents, aunts and uncles and grandparents, and so did Lucas. But what was your childhood like? Where did you grow up?
So I was born and raised in Oregon, right outside of Portland, kind of
Nice.
metropolitan area outside of there. I had a great family. So I had, a upstanding, like both parents are still in the picture, everything like that. My dad was definitely like the biggest role model in my life. My dad was a police officer, was on a
Nice.
SWAT team,
Oh, dude,
served
let's
his whole
go.
career as a police officer. Yeah. So that definitely shaped me and my brother's path in life. My brother's actually currently a captain in Special Forces. He's a Green Beret in North Carolina. So obviously my dad had a big impact on me and my brother. But personally, my childhood, like I was not the best kid. I was kind of a screw up in many ways. Just I wasn't a great kid. Didn't take school super seriously. I was a smart kid. I was athletic and everything like that. But one of the kind of things that drove a lot of my later decisions in life was I grew really late in high school, and a lot of my passions and interests in high school was like sports and athleticism. And I was always a really good athlete growing up, but then I hit high school and I was behind because I was a small kid. I was like 5'2". I didn't hit a growth spurt till I was like a junior in high school. And so a lot of the reasons that I did things later in life was kind of started from a place of like failure. I remember in high school we did the presidential like fitness test or something like that. And there was a section where they had to do the pull-ups,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I was the only male in my high school class who couldn't do a pull-up. Like I had to go do that pull-ups on like the assisted pull-up machine.
Yeah.
And I remember that being like a very embarrassing thing for me. And I remember like not doing well in sports in high school. And so that always like stuck with me at this place of like kind of I'm a failure almost. And then I went to college for like a semester right out of high school and I dropped out. So I was in this place in my life right post high school and like dropping out of college of like, what am I going to do? Like I feel like a failure. I have no direction, no purpose. What am I going to do? And I sort of felt like, okay, I'm at rock bottom. There's only one way to go from here, and that's to do the hardest thing possible. So without talking to my parents, without talking to anybody about it, I literally walked from the campus to the recruiting office and went and signed up for the military.
Let's
And I was
go.
like, I called my brother who was at West Point, right? He was the golden child, doing way better than I was. And he was like, get an option 40 contract. And so I did that. I signed the contract and then went out and joined the army.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of how my childhood shaped getting to the first stage of my life.
Yeah. How old are you right now?
I'm 29.
Let's go, dude. You've got, man, those were good years.
They were.
Those were
They
good
were
years.
really good years.
That's awesome, man. So how old were you when you were going into the Army?
So I joined the army. It was like 18 and a half. And I
Okay.
think by the time I got to like basic training, I was 19.
Okay, cool. So for our listeners, what is an option 40?
So an option 40 contract essentially guarantees you a slot to what's called the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program.
Got it.
So I think a lot of people are under the assumption that Ranger School is the thing that kind of signifies being an Army Ranger. And I have a Ranger tab, I've been to Ranger School, but that's actually kind of it's a leadership school in the Army. So anybody can actually go to Ranger School.
Yeah, I was
Obviously,
slotted.
You probably know. You probably have SEALs who've been to
Yep.
Ranger School.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to Ranger School, my second platoon, when we were doing our workup for Ramadi. I really wanted to go, had had as an option. And then we found out we're doing a short condensed workup, and it was like, well, you can go to ranger school or sniper school. And I was like, oh, sniper school.
Yeah, you made the right choice.
Yes. However, if I wish more than anything, I could have done both, because when we were in Ramadi working with those soldiers and those Marines, having that Ranger tab would have been very helpful for building stronger relationships with the Army faster, I think. But I mean, we did a great job. I mean, we loved those soldiers. I mean, the Battle of Ramadi was epic. The 1st 506 Infantry Division, it was, all those guys were absolutely incredible. Nothing but respect for soldiers and Marines that we worked with. And I've always wanted to be able to interview a Ranger, because I just kind of want to learn more about Ranger School, because I know the process that you're talking about, not a lot of people know and understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't. I thought, so I went to basic training with my option 40, and I thought it was Ranger School like after. And I remember somebody saying, dude, my lifelong dream is to be in the 75th Ranger Regiment. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, I thought we were going to go be Army Rangers. What is the 75th? How many of these regiments are there? So after getting to basic training and really fleshing out more and, talking to other people, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to RASP. I guess that's a different thing. So RASP, which is the guaranteed slot 2 with the option 40, is definitely different than Ranger School. When I went, and obviously I don't know how it is now, this was back in 2015, so it's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or I guess 2016 when I went to RASP, so 9 years ago. It was 8 weeks. So the first 4 weeks is kind of the like break you down phase. And then the next 4 weeks there's a little bit of training, things like demolitions training, marksmanship, things like that. So hard 4, learning 4, but still you're in a training environment and they're not treating you the best. It's not a gentleman's course.
Yeah.
And then upon completion of that, I think we started with somewhere around like 183 people, and I think we graduated like 50 or 60, something like that. So maybe like 2/3 attrition, something like that. And some classes are more or less. I've heard like 70s or 80s graduating, or like numbers, or 30s or 20s. So depending on the class, mine was probably somewhere in the middle. I'm not the I walked both ways uphill in the snow type of person. Mine was probably around the moderate amount that anybody else's was.
Which is,
but then, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then upon getting to the unit, so you get to the 75th Ranger Regiment, you're a brand new guy, you're a private, just the grunt. You're the lowest on the totem pole. And then the way you climb up the totem pole, the first step is to go to Ranger School, which earns you a Ranger tab. And that allows you to then, in the future, take on leadership positions. So the next step for me was going to Ranger School. And this kind of goes into the condensed timeline that I got lucky with that we were talking about before we started, which is when I showed up to my unit, which was Bravo Company, 3rd Ranger Battalion, they were actually on deployment. And so they were like, okay, we don't really know what to do with these guys right now. So they sent 3 of us to Ranger School. 2 of them failed and I passed.
Nice.
So I got to go to Ranger School. I went straight through. I was honestly like, that was probably the best way to approach Ranger School, is right out of RASP. I'm in shape. I'm super motivated. I'm ready to go. So kind of got lucky again with that timing and just the way it shook out. But we can talk more about Ranger School if you want to talk about it. But Ranger School is a trip. It's like it's the worst summer camp you'll ever go to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very intrigued by how the Army shaped Ranger School, because there's no denying that, if somebody's been through all those things that you've gone through, they have discipline, they have dedication, they have mental fortitude, the ability to shut the brain off and just do what you're supposed to do, which I'm willing to bet has been great for your jiu-jitsu journey and what you do in business and just life in general. Like these are principles that you'll use, if you want, for the rest of your life to help you work through things. If you want to, give us a peek behind the curtain, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, just to touch on what you said briefly, like, I think it's not a conscious thing for me of like, I've been through difficult stuff, so everything else is easy, because everything is like, it doesn't make other things easy per se, but you definitely have an unconscious ability to just kind of handle things more. I feel like, you know that you've done difficult things, or you've been tested, what it's like to feel the feelings of difficulty. I think people think that it's like you do something really hard and then it's all of a sudden like, oh, you're doing 100 push-ups and this is easy. And it's like it's not that it becomes easy. It's just that you know what it feels like to go through something difficult. And so you're more inoculated to it than you are otherwise. But yeah, just briefly going through kind of how Ranger School looks is, and once again, I think they've changed it a little bit since then. This was 2016, so 8 years of difference. There's the first thing that you happens when you get there is rap week. So that's kind of the introductionary phase. I don't even know if that's a word, but intro phase, where they take you through physical fitness testing, obstacle courses, things like that. And that's not fun, because it's not a gentleman's course, and for anybody that doesn't know what that means, it's they're not treating you like a human being. Um, but you have to do push-ups, sit-ups, running, rucking, things like that. Um, and then you'll do like rope climbing, a bunch of like physically demanding obstacle courses. You do things like you climb up like I think it's probably 10 meters, and walk across a log,
Yeah.
kind of test like your fear, against like heights, things like that. And then you hang from a rope, jump in. You do things called the slide for life, which is you climb up a big
Oh
tower,
yeah.
grab onto like sort of a zip line thing and slide into the water. So there's all kinds of things like that meant to test you mentally and physically.
Nice.
And then after that, you go to the first phase, which is Derby phase. So this is the squad based training. So the way that Ranger School works is Derby phase is squad, and then mountains in Florida is platoon. So Derby phase, or really in any of the phases, you have two opportunities called looks to graduate to the next phase. And what they're grading you on those looks is you're placed into a leadership position. And then based on how you perform under, planning, pressure, the assault phase, the all that kind of stuff, you're either given a go or a no go. So in the squad environment, you're placed as either the squad leader or the team leader. And generally, they will place, because there's officers and enlisted in Ranger School, they give the officers the bigger leadership position. Now, sometimes they place enlisted in the squad leader position right off the bat, sometimes not.
Yeah.
But typically, once you reach the later phases too, they'll place the officers will always get a look at being the like platoon leader.
Yeah.
And the enlisted will usually get looks at being the squad leaders when you get to the platoon phases.
That-
But anyway, Derby happens in Georgia, which is hot. It's muggy. It's terrible. And it's essentially like simulating Vietnam era style tactics. So you basically do FTXs where you venture out into the forest. You have a map and a compass, and you kind of plan a mission where you set up like a patrol base, plan the mission, walk all the way to the mission, do the assault, clear it, and then go on to the next objective, set up a patrol base for the night, and you just kind of do that. And I think Derby is 3 days, rest 3 days, and then Mountains is 5 days, rest 5 days, and then Florida is one long 10-day FTX.
Nice. What portion of Ranger School is it that they talk about that you only get one MRE a day? Or is that still a thing?
So let me think. I'm trying to remember. I think at least when I went, we had two
Oh,
every
okay.
every
Nice.
day. I'm trying to remember that it's a little fuzzy for
Which
me
is
now,
still,
especially
yeah,
as
but
a while
which
ago.
is still not
I
a
think we
lot.
always had two.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
he's 29. Like his memory's probably starting to go. He's getting up there in
It
years.
is. That and the hearing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The hearing's been gone for a while. Maybe it was just a rumor mill that when you go through Ranger School, you only get one MRE a day. That was probably, that could be one of those things. Because I also like have had people like, okay, so in Buds, like when do they drown you and bring you back to life? I'm like, never, never. That would be a horrible plan for training. Now, do people drown in training? Yes. However, that is not an intentional thing. So I wonder if that's one of those things. And the land navigation portion of Ranger School is, I heard, pretty legit, and that's what drew me to it because I love land navigation. I
forgot about that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's so in Rap Week, you're tested on a full, like a large scale land navigation course, and luckily, once again, in RASP, but you are as well. And so coming fresh out of that, that was, right there on
Oh,
my
you were
mind.
like
But
golden.
land navigation in the Army it's kind of BS. I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie.
Okay.
The principles are sound. How to use a map and a compass is really sound, but the way that everybody executes land navigation is kind of cheating. And the way that land navigation happens is you basically just walk on designated trails that are on the map until you hit a like point,
Okay.
say like a
Yeah.
crossing road,
Yeah.
and then you shoot your azimuth to the point
Target.
that you're trying to find.
Interesting.
So you're not just going through the
So you're
woods
not train
and
navigating.
yeah, it's not just, I mean, there is terrain navigation,
Okay.
but like, I'll give you an example. So here's a big map. There's a point over here you have to find,
Yep.
and there's roads going like this through the map. You walk the road until you get to the closest intersection or like road. And then you go, okay, the point is 300 meters into the woods. So you walk 200 meters up the road, shoot an azimuth to the point from the road, and then you start walking into the forest, and you realize thousands of other people have also done this land navigation
Got it.
course.
Got
So
it.
there's foot trails. The real test is it's at night in pitch black under stress,
Yeah.
and you have night vision on. So obviously it's a single tube like PVS 14 or something, so it's terrible, and it's Ranger School, so it's all battered and broken.
Yeah.
But it's really, in my opinion, a confidence test of like
Nice.
you shoot your azimuth, you go out into the forest, and sometimes there'll be a trail, sometimes there won't be, sometimes there might be one or two going this way or that way, and you just have to believe in yourself of like, I'm gonna follow my azimuth, I'm gonna find this point, and you will get lost a few times. But in my opinion, land navigation is less about like going through like a national forest and reading like contour lines
Yeah.
and finding your way through like ridges and valleys and stuff, and more about just being confident that like I'm going to go find this point and I will make it back in time.
That's
And a
cool.
lot of people break under that pressure. Like land navigation and the PT test are probably two of the biggest
Yeah.
getters in
Awesome.
Rap Week.
That's awesome. Another funny question I have to ask you, that because I get this often on my end. Do you have the Ranger Creed memorized?
Not anymore.
People ask me like, "Do you have the SEAL Creed memorized?" I'm like, "Nope." Is there anything though that you do remember from the Ranger Creed that just like sticks out? That something that you always kind of held to, or is it just the principle in general?
Yeah, I think it's definitely the principle. There's definitely like a few lines here and there that I'll remember from time to time, but I think like just like the principle in general of like, you know, always giving it your all,
Yep.
never leaving a man behind.
Yep.
Like there's all just the guiding principles that I feel like pretty much everybody in the military, and honestly very specifically too people in special operations, like kind of live by, whether they know it's conscious or unconscious.
Yeah, I love the whole Rangers lead the way.
Yeah, yeah.
That just whole principle for life is pretty badass.
Yes. And I think that line too embodies like what being a leader is. And I think leadership is often lost on people in the sense of like it's telling people what to do. And in reality, it is that line, right? As Rangers lead the way, it's that you lead from the front.
Yep.
It's like no great leader in history ever was just like a buffoon who just told people what to do.
I'm glad that you said that, man. Like I know you. I don't even know if you've listened to episodes of this podcast before, but that is one of the things that we talk about a lot is a misconception of what leadership is. It's building a relationship and having the ability to influence the people around you. Your title doesn't make you a leader. It's your ability to influence the people around you.
100%.
And the Rangers are great at empowering their men to step up in any position. It doesn't matter what your rank is, doesn't matter your title. It's like, hey, we expect Rangers to step up and lead. That's why Rangers lead the way. And it was the same thing in the SEAL teams. I remember when I was a new guy, hey, you were expected to step up, lead, make decisions. You know, in my second task unit, when Jocko was our task unit commander, that was one of the big things that he did with us is like, hey, I need you to step up and lead and be more aggressive with your leadership. And it was, and that's what a good leader does is he empowers the men and outside the military, men and women, right, to step up and lead. And I think it's cool how you guys, there's obviously a lot of synergy there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you make it through all that training. Your unit comes back. What is it like integrating into that unit?
I had a hard time because um, I was supposed to be a brand new guy, a private, and by I'll put this as professionally as possible. When you are a brand new person in a special operations unit, you don't
Mm-hmm.
get treated the best,
Yeah.
and there may or may not be some sort of, rituals and things that happen to newer
Yeah.
guys in the unit.
Yeah. It rhymes with hazing,
Yeah,
but not hazing. Yeah.
no, no, of course
Of
not, none
course
of
not.
that. But anyway, and obviously I went
Rites
through
of
some of that when
passage.
I first showed up because there was people like, in the rear or whatever who didn't deploy. There's always people behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have it nearly to the extent that the two guys that failed Ranger
Oh,
School and
jeez.
are now there got it. And so for me, it was weird because I was brand new, but I also had a Ranger tab,
Mm.
which protects you from being a brand new guy from those things
Oh, wow.
because now you're not just a private, you're a tab.
Mm.
So they got back from honestly a very it was kind of a debacle of a
Mm.
deployment. It was called Green Sword. I'm not going to go into it
Yeah.
in any meaningful manner because I wasn't actually there, but it was a pretty big debacle. There was a couple people who got injured, and it was kind of just a mess. And so they came back not in the greatest of moods.
Got it.
And so it was weird for me to try to integrate into the unit because I was a tab, but
Mm.
I was new, and they're coming back from actual war, and they're like, "Who the hell are you?"
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So I kind of had to go through that growing process of like kind of earning my spot
Mm.
again,
Yeah.
even though I succeeded. I went to Ranger School and went straight through,
Mm.
but it seemed like I was less a part of the group than the two people who failed.
That's crazy.
It was a weird situation for me.
Mm.
And so I just kind of had to keep my head down and just kind of earn my spot seemingly again. Um,
Which is a
but
great lesson for
go
life.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's what you just said. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I really want our people to listen to what you just said. Earning your spot is an important trait to have, which
Yeah.
shows that you had a tremendous amount of humility, because for you to have to be able to just say, okay, cool. You know what? Hey, I made it through Ranger School. I'm tabbed up. They're treating me like I'm not. They're giving these other guys different treatment that failed. Because in your mind, you got to be like, bro, these guys failed. I'm better than them. But
Yeah,
obviously, you're not
yeah.
going to say that. You're not going to act that way. And so I just wanted our listeners to really at least grasp that is the mindset and mentality that you had of just straight humility of like, you know what, cool, all right, I don't agree with this sucks, but I'm gonna earn my seat here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was 20 years old, so I'm not going to say I treated it with perfect grace. You know what I mean? Like
No one
it
does.
sounds great in hindsight of like me re-earning my spot, but like there was definitely times I would go back to like my barracks room or whatever, and I'm like, what would you want me to do? Go and fail and be a loser? Like what did you want me to do? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I definitely didn't handle it like perfectly all the time. So
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like that because it was incredibly frustrating and aggravating
Yeah.
to essentially be an overperformer and get treated like
Trash.
a loser. So
Yeah.
that definitely sucked.
Okay.
But things definitely got better over time for sure.
Okay.
And I remember when I made it to gun team leader, which is like the next leadership position above being just a tab, I had a really phenomenal squad leader who definitely like helped me feel like I was definitely way more a part of the unit. Unfortunately, 2 months into that, he got into a car accident and died.
Jeez.
So that was another massive hit to like it kind of, painted the picture of me being in the military a lot of like having these ups and downs of am I going to stay in and am I going to stick with this? Because like if I, honestly, I feel like if he had stayed around, if he was still alive, like there's a lot higher possibility of me probably re-enlisting and staying in for longer. His
Mm.
name was James Perez. He was a phenomenal ranger. He deployed like 7 times, just an
Jeez.
absolute stud. He's been shot. And the worst part about dying in a car accident is there's a large memorial in the center courtyard of, the battalion that memorializes all the Rangers who perished in combat.
Hmm.
And it's like his name is not written there. But yeah, he was a phenomenal guy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother. That's yeah, losing someone like that is hard. It doesn't matter if you lose them in combat or a car accident or cancer. Loss of a loved one, someone who has impact over your life, is it's something you'll carry with you until the day you die because of the impact that he had on you, man. And
Yeah, yeah.
so he passes away. That's obviously a huge hit to you and the unit. Where are you guys at in training? Are you guys training to go back overseas? Like, what time frame is this? Like, what's on the horizon for you? Like, what's your focus in your mission right now?
Yeah, so I actually skipped over briefly before I was promoted to gun team leader. I went on my first deployment. I went to Syria. We were some of the first Rangers, like boots on the ground in Syria, and that was that was a strange deployment because it wasn't our typical, mission set. It wasn't our typical like
Mm-hmm.
job that we train for. Like our thing as U.S. Army Rangers is the direct raid, right?
Yeah.
It's a direct action raid. Like, you know, fly in a helicopter, land on the doorstep, set isolation and containment,
Mm.
either call the people out, go in and assault it, grab somebody or something and leave.
Yeah.
And we weren't doing that in Syria. It was just like almost a Green Beret style mission of training the local forces
Hmm.
and supporting them through, like QRF or, like just medical support, things like that. So it was a very strange deployment. It wasn't something that I was trained for, and it wasn't something that I even really knew how to do. So it was really cool. It was a really cool experience, seeing like these super brave dudes. Like we would be on the flot, right? And we would just watch like these 12, what was there? I can't remember. They were Kurdish fighters,
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
but
Kurds
they would
are
like
awesome, dude.
they're some bad dudes.
They.
And they would just like climb into a bongo truck
Yep.
with AK-47s,
Hmm.
turn their hazards on because that would get them through the checkpoints, and then just like drive to war.
Hmm.
And it was like, damn.
Yeah. Well, they had to be in a dump truck because of the oversized gear they were carrying.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Syria was a trip. Wasn't anything crazy that happened on that deployment. We got back, and then the stuff that I discussed, yeah, happened.
Okay.
And then we started preparing for the next deployment. So it was our rotation to go to Afghanistan, like Bagram.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's way more in line with kind of like the typical training.
Hmm.
So prepare for that. And then I think it was, let's see, 2017, late 2017, something like that. Maybe 2019. These years kind of meshed together.
Oh, I get it.
Went to
Yeah.
Afghanistan for my second deployment.
Okay.
And once again, this is just like me getting lucky.
Hmm.
Like there's so many people, especially in the later like 2010s, where the war is kind of slowing down. Things are beginning to like to take the foot off the gas. And so I know guys who had been in for 5, 6 years and like hadn't deployed. I know that sounds crazy, but like
It's a common thing, man.
yeah, yeah. And it's like I have 3 deployments by sheer luck and timing. It has nothing to do with me being super great or amazing. It was just like it just so happened that they called on us to go to certain places. And so, yeah, second deployment was Afghanistan. We went to Bagram. I mean, obviously it's not 2005, 2008. It wasn't
Yeah.
insane, but we went on a couple dozen missions or something like that. Did the usual Ranger missions of raids and things like that. So that was cool. Got to experience that. I was a gun team leader for that. Um, I think funniest story I have from that is my very first mission ever. It's like 8 degrees. It's like freezing cold. I thought, by the way, the Middle East was hot. It's not. We're in the mountains of Afghanistan. We're flying in on a Chinook, and they're like, we're gonna walk in, so it wasn't a land on the X type of thing. And so we fly into, the mountains or whatever, and we're going to fast rope out of the helicopter because the actual LZ is not landable, apparently.
Mm.
And so we have to fast rope. But like, I'm a gun team leader. I'm 220 pounds, and I'm carrying 7.62, 1,000 rounds of ammunition, a tripod, and a spare barrel.
Bro.
So we're hovering over the LZ. They told us we were going to land, but now all of a sudden, you know how loud it is in a helicopter. The guy, the crew chief is just like, his mouth is moving and he's waving his hands, and you're just like, under night vision too. You're just looking at him like, what's this dude talking about? And so he's trying to tell us like, put your roping gloves on. We're roping.
Oh my gosh.
And so like I get up and I'm like, oh, we're putting our roping gloves on. So people are starting to walk, and I'm like yelling at my gunner, like, grab my gloves, because they're on the side of my kit.
Mm-hmm.
And like I can reach them without my pack on. But when I put the pack on with the tripod and the rounds and everything, I'm so immobilized. I'm like, I can't reach my gloves. And so he's like yanking my gloves off as we're walking towards the door. I like muster them on, like, oh my gosh, I got to get these on, grab the rope, slide down like a freight train, and just impact the ground. And so I'm like, oh, my back. Ugh. I get up, run over, take a knee, like pretending to like pull security. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And then after injuring my back, we walked for 3 hours through the mountains, bouldering over rocks, climbing through icy streams. And I'm like trying to like, rest on my knees every now and again, like put my hands on my knees and like bend over to like rest my lower back. And that set in motion a cascade of, you will forever have back pain.
Yeah.
Dummy.
However, the VA's probably like, these are not service related.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro, that's crazy. How did you like the scenery of Afghanistan?
I thought, honestly, and I only ever saw it under night vision.
Oh, okay.
It looked like, this is probably just me being a white dumb person, but like it looked like Aladdin sometimes.
Yep, it's
like
beautiful.
We would be up in the rolling mountains and stuff, and I would like look over the horizon, like, this is crazy.
It's awesome. So I deployed to Afghanistan. And I was south of Kandahar, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And when same thing, we didn't fly helicopters during the day; it was at night. But like, just Afghanistan the mountains are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. I remember Kandahar was where I had the experience of, this looks like Aladdin. Yeah. That was nuts.
It's crazy, man.
It's surprising to like have the juxtaposition of, hopefully somebody doesn't shoot me, and wow, look at that pretty mountain.
Yes, exactly. I've had this conversation with guys before where I was like, man, if Afghanistan wasn't full of just the bad people there, it would be a place that I'm like, that would be a cool place to go visit. Yeah. It would be a great place to go vacation. However, it's controlled by people I don't align with or appreciate, and people that don't like me. So probably not going to go there.
I've seen, I don't know if I would ever do it, but I've seen people like going there now and just kind of walking around. And I'm like,
no, zero chance.
They don't know. They don't know that I was a ranger and was deployed here and did missions here. Like, they don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe they could find that information out, but like, I wonder how interesting it would be to like go back.
I've wanted to go.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I've thought about that a lot. There's some Instagram pages I was scrolling through and checking out, like tourism of Afghanistan Instagram pages. And I was just like, man, what would that be like? And I've also thought about that for Ramadi as well. Like, that would be crazy to go back. I'll get on Google Maps and go back, and I'll zoom into to Ramadi and look at where our forward, where our fob was, and just like, oh, there's a checkpoint there, and oh, that's cool. There's a mall now, and there's a swimming pool, and there's a rec center, and there's a garden with yogurt. This is crazy. Yeah. That was the aid station where all of our wounded went, and where we'd have to go donate blood to, and now it's a elementary school. It's just crazy to see the difference. So, yeah, Afghanistan. Yeah, it's very weird. So what was that? What was that whole deployment like for you? I mean, you did a handful of missions. Any takeaways from that deployment that you brought back that, changed the way you thought about training and preparing for things as a ranger, and then just life in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really made it real for me because towards the end of the deployment, we went down to Kandahar with the like mission set of we're gonna like go and find higher up guys in the ISIS food chain,
Hmm.
and we went on a really sketchy mission where four of our guys got injured pretty badly going in to clear a building, and that made it very real for me. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to go into like the details or anything for people who are
Yeah.
not familiar with like, the military or combat and things, but hearing my friends get shot was definitely a eye-opening experience for me. Like not the shooting itself, but their voices. That's what made it real for me.
Yeah.
That's what made it go from this is like a cool, difficult job to, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah.
And so that really set in stone for me, like when I got back, like we're not just training to go do things.
Hmm.
Like this is life and death.
Yep.
This is life and death.
That's crazy, man. It's a weird thing when you hear over the radio your friends talking after they've been shot.
Yeah.
I remember my buddy Cowie when he was shot when they were leaving an Overwatch position, and you hear the gunfire and you recognize your own guy's gunfire. Isn't that crazy? Like
Yeah.
like just how they shoot, how it sounds. You're like, oh, that's Mikey, that's Benny, that's Cowie in a gunfight, and you're just waiting. It's a weird thing. Like you're waiting, and then all of a sudden, I remember hearing the radio key up, and I remember Cowie saying, "Hey, LT, this is Cowie. I've been shot," and just the way that made me feel. And like you said, it changes everything. And that wasn't the first time it had happened on our deployment, but those are the things that stick with you when you're training. And I'm willing to bet that this is just a conscious and subconscious mindset that you have for just life in general and training. That's why you train hard. That's why you're healthy. That's why you're strong. That's why you do what you do in life. And you also help other people be able to do the same thing with health and fitness. Do you think that also comes from this moment as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, it also just kind of puts the stakes into perspective of like life is short, life is
Hmm.
finite. It made things instead of just kind of like being asleep at the wheel in life too,
Yep.
you realize like, oh, like this is all I have, right? This is real, and it is not. It is, I'm not super religious, but like it is a blessing.
Yeah.
This isn't just. I think a lot of people kind of just drift through life. They meander through it.
Hmm.
And that helped me, that in conjunction with lots of other experiences too, but that helped me realize how important even just day-to-day things are.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Um, so after this deployment, how much time do you have left in the military? I know you said that if your teammate hadn't been killed, you probably would have stayed in. What was your thought process of like, okay, hey, I have now 3 combat deployments. I got to stay in, reenlist, or get out. Like, what drove you to decide to get out? Because that's a hard decision, man. And like, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie, for our listeners, I want you guys to understand, like, the fact that this guy had 3 deployments within this window is incredible. It's
it was a lot.
absolute. It's a lot, but it's also incredible because that's not a common thing. And like you said, like, hey, luck of the draw, position places, that's awesome. But what was the shift of your mindset to like, hey, okay, I want to get out of the military, and like, what am I going to do? What did you
Yeah.
want to do?
So Afghanistan was my second one. We actually ended up going back to Syria, the third one. We
Oh,
can I can
nice.
talk about that more too.
Yeah.
But in Afghanistan, I was kind of in that window of like, am I going to stay in? Am I going to reenlist? What's the
Hmm.
next steps for me? And so I wanted to do one of the more specialty jobs, like go to like dog handling or like a sniper or something like that. So it's always sounded super cool. And so I was kind of in that window of like deciding what I was going to do next. I didn't have to make a decision yet, but I was kind of there.
Hmm.
And towards the end of being in Afghanistan, they basically told us when you get back, you guys are going to be training like how do I say this without you're gonna train to fight a near peer force.
Yep.
They're gonna be somewhere in Asia potentially. And so the training changed when we got home from our typical stuff to essentially Ranger School again. Because obviously you guys are familiar with when you're fighting a near peer enemy, you can't use technology because they have night vision, they have radio jammers, they have interception. Like you can't send messages on your ATAC. You have to use the encrypted like brick radio. And essentially we're just back to Ranger School era tactics. So our next training cycle was literally medieval. We were walking around the woods, digging foxholes, digging, trenches. It was a pretty rough training cycle of like this sucks. Wow. This is not fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of dampened my mood. And so I was debating on, okay, do I stay in or not? And I was kind of in the position of deciding this. I was 22 at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm not having the greatest of times in terms of the people that I really wanted to be in the leadership positions over me weren't there anymore. And I'm not super enjoying the job as much. And I've kind of checked off all the boxes of what I really set out to do on this journey.
That's cool.
And so I was like, okay, I'm 22. If I get out now or within the next year, I can, I think, seamlessly transition back to being a normal person and probably go to college and not be a complete weirdo in terms of like going to college as a 23-year-old. But if I stay in, I'm going to get out at like 26, 27. And that's going to be a little weird. And so I was like, what are the benefits to staying in for another round? It seems like we're really taking the foot off the gas, and the likelihood of me getting 3 more deployments is extremely unlikely. The likelihood of me getting sent to like, I don't know, Jordan or something to do a training deployment in the next 3 years is extremely likely. So I was like, okay, the weighted equation here doesn't make a ton of sense for me to stick around, and this might be my only opportunity to like get back into real life and use all of my experience, all my knowledge, and use it as a stepping stone or a jumping off point instead of what I see a lot of veterans do and kind of just like hang on to this for the rest of their life of like, this is all I have.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to use this to propel me to the next thing, to like superpower it and not use it as like fall into this like I'm just this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody does that, but I've seen that happen to a lot of people. So I made the decision of like, okay, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna go to college.
Nice.
So I got lucky. We went on a 3rd deployment to Syria. And on that one, interestingly, it was kind of back to the normal missions, but we were just the support to, at the time, I don't know what they're known as now. It's Delta Force. They were going by Gablestone. But we essentially were just working like on the Panzers for them, which is those like, I don't know, they're just big ass vehicles. Excuse my language.
No,
they're
you're
big
good.
vehicles. Yeah. And I was working as a minigunner or whatever. Or we had people driving it. So we're just in support of them. And I got to do like a bunch of cool stuff for them where they just needed, say, a machine gunner to go and work as a blocking position. So it was very, what is the movie? Black Hawk Down-esque.
Yes.
Where it's like you have the professionals and then they're like, hey buddy, kid, come here.
Yeah.
you're gonna be over here.
That's
and
awesome.
So I got to do some cool stuff with them where, just once again, luck of the draw. And so I got to work with them a little bit. But then got home from that and I started applying to colleges. This is also when I found jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
I actually was listening to I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast in Syria on my 3rd deployment, and I stumbled across a Jon Danaher podcast. And listening to him talk about jiu-jitsu, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a superpower. I got to learn this. And so when I got home, I started applying to colleges and I jumped into my first jiu-jitsu classes. So that's kind of what set me on the path those last like 4 months of being in the military of like, okay, what am I going to do next? I want to go to the next thing and like succeed at it. I'm not just kind of like wander out of the military of like, oh, I'm out. I wanted to like step out of Fort Benning to my next thing.
That's smart, man. I think that's a big that's a big part of you being a ranger is understanding, okay, hey, what's my next mission? And what I've seen, and I would love your thoughts on this if you agree or disagree, that the issue a lot of veterans have when they transition out of the military is they don't have another mission. They don't know what they're going to do, and that's when they start playing the victim card. That's when those lies of entitlement start to creep in, and it's just like, hey, yeah, you did some great stuff in the military, but you're not entitled to anything on the outside.
No. Yeah.
So, okay. I figured you and I would probably align on that based off of what you've been saying, which has been pretty incredible so far. Okay. So you start training jiu-jitsu in the Fort Benning, Georgia area?
Yeah, so I started it was called Blind Fury Jiu-Jitsu. It was taught by a guy who was partially blind.
No
and
way.
He's actually really good at
Of
jiu-jitsu.
course it was.
What's that?
I said, of course it was taught by a guy who's partially blind. Like, only a blind guy makes that joke about
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. Blind Fury.
That's amazing.
It was awesome. Yeah,
Oh
he
my
was
gosh.
hilarious too because he was very like self-deprecating about him being partially blind, and I mean he named his school Blind Fury. It's hilarious.
Dude, that's
But
awesome.
so I had that school, and then there was also, which I found on Fort Benning, there was a legitimate no-gi program on
Oh,
Benning
rad.
that was taught by a professional MMA fighter, like a legit brown belt, and there was also an older, like maybe in his 40s black belt, and so they like all kind of ran like real no-gi classes.
Do you remember their names?
So the brown belt who kind of led the whole thing, his name was Dirk McComas.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
I'm really bad with names, and unless I see someone's face, I can put it together. But I'm wondering if there's that time frame. Like I knew some guys that were doing that there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was super cool because it was like you'd think it would be more combatives, and a lot of them were trained in the combatives program, but they also were like, okay, we're gonna do no-gi grappling. Like
Yes.
that's cool, but we're here to do no-gi grappling. And so I got to train at both. I was doing gi at Blind Fury, and then I was doing no-gi with like dudes. I mean, obviously we've all had the experience of your kind of mom and pop jujitsu. Place is a little bit more hobbyist, maybe not as many like in shape dudes, but on Benning, it was like a bunch of in shape, aggressive dudes. So it was like a cool training environment because it was all people that were already in shape and strong and aggressive and didn't want to lose. It wasn't just like the accountant or whatever, the school teacher. No shade on them.
Yeah.
But I was a 6'3", 220-pound ranger who's been powerlifting for 5 years. I wanted to like get beat up a little bit. I wanted to like have some tough rounds.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. And as I'm hearing you say all this stuff, I'm like, man, this is your first intro into jiu-jitsu. This is what you're judging it off of. My first intro to jiu-jitsu was with Cowie, who took leave before our very first deployment to go to Hawaii to win the whole big tournament out there as a purple belt. Yeah, like this is back in like 2004 time frame. Like we were on Guam for the first part. Our first deployment, we went to Guam for a little bit and then went to Iraq. We were in Guam. There was people from Guam that recognized him when we were all out at a bar one night. Like circled us. It's just Cowie and I, and Cowie's smaller than me. And all of a sudden we get like half circled, surrounded at the bar by a bunch of Chamorans, right? Guys from Guam. And I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. Like I remember grabbing my knife and fork from like the bar because I just thought like it was going to be bad. And these guys recognize him, and then they're like, oh, you got to come train with us. And it's a great story. And so we go train. And that was my first introduction, was hard jiu-jitsu, hard training. Like we wore our cami pants and a brown t-shirt and just freaking got after it. And then I have Jocko as my task unit commander for my second platoon. And so that was always like my baseline of like, no, I want really hard jiu-jitsu. And so you get introduced to jiu-jitsu by a bunch of savages on Fort Benning. And so that's your baseline. And then you listen to Jon Danaher, he's just an incredible human when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So that's what you're striving for. So you get out of the military. Where do you move? What's your goal for college? And then how do you find a gym?
So I got out. I got out at the worst time possible. I got out February of 2020, which literally 4 weeks later, COVID happened. So here's what happened. I was ready to go to college. I wanted to start as soon as possible. I was getting out in February, so I was like, okay, I'm going to start summer classes in like, what is that? June or something.
Yeah.
So I was going to go to University of Arizona, but in between February and June, I needed somewhere to live essentially because I didn't have an apartment yet. So I went to North Carolina to live with my brother for a little bit.
Okay.
He hadn't gone through the pipeline yet, but he was preparing to go through SFAS. So it was cool to kind of like go out there and live with him for a little bit, and we would lift some weights and hang out, whatever. So I lived with my brother for a few months. But what was hilarious is I got to my brother's house and I was like, okay, all I'm going to do is lift and do jujitsu. And those two things, 4 weeks into leaving the military, immediately were taken away.
Jeez.
So, it's COVID, and my brother doesn't do jujitsu, but like he's interested in it. So we go to Walmart, we get those like black puzzle mats,
Yep.
and we set up like some puzzle mats in the garage. He had like a little home gym, so it was just like me and my brother like lifting weights and doing jujitsu for like 8 weeks. And he had some friends who did jujitsu, so they'd come over to the garage. And like I was a white belt, we brought over like some blue belt. We were just kind of like scrapping in the garage
That's
for
awesome.
a few months.
That's so
which was
cool.
very interesting.
Legit, dude.
I mean, you made a way to, you found a way to make it happen, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So when are you able to actually start college and find, cause you moved, correct, for college?
Yeah. So I moved. So I did a cross country from North Carolina to Arizona to start college. I moved, I think it's like May, because the summer classes started at the end of May. So it was Tucson, Arizona. I got to Tucson, Arizona in late May. And immediately I was like on the hunt for like, where can I train jujitsu? And all the schools were closed except for, and I can say this now because it's 5 years later and no one's going to
Who cares?
come after
Little
them.
speakeasy
10th
jujitsu.
Planet
Yeah.
in
Nice.
Tucson was training
Big
behind
shocker.
closed
Big
doors.
shocker. 10th Planet was.
Yeah, I know, right? So they had the windows taped up, garbage bags and everything. And it's like, for the people who might find that offensive, I lived alone in an apartment by myself. So I didn't have to worry about anything. I was like, I don't care. So I went to 10th Planet, signed up immediately, and I was again back in it, going to summer class online, and then doing jujitsu behind closed doors, basically.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until spring semester the following year that the school went from online to in person.
Nice.
And then the rest of my college experience was completely normal.
Cool.
But the first like May until December of 2020 was online school, which was super weird, but I made it work. And also this is something I carried through with the military, is I was kind of a screw off in high school in terms of like caring about my education. But this time around, I was like, the military's paying for it, and this is my shot to like take the next step in life. And so like I was a 4.0 student like all the way through college.
Dude, that's rad, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So college, what'd you get your degree in again?
I have a finance degree.
Nice. That's right. Yeah. You said that earlier. Man,
Graduated with a 3.9, by the way. I missed it by a mark.
Unbelievable. Shame be upon you and your family.
I know.
that's awesome. What are some parallels that you've been able to draw from, your life, training jiu-jitsu, the battlefield, college, and now for what you do? I know you said your job is social media, but you do online training. You help people legitimately transform their life through just the mindset that you bring, and also education of lifting and nutrition. Are there any parallels that you just have seen and or draw from?
Yeah, I think on a base level, I think that this is a jiu-jitsu thing, this is a military thing, this is a lifting and nutrition thing. And I've heard actually Jon Danaher speak on this too in terms of technique, is 80% of your success in any field or discipline will come from 20% of, let's say in jiu-jitsu, techniques. Let's say in nutrition, the foods you're eating. Let's say in lifting, the exercise you're doing. So 80% of your progress comes from 20% of, let's say, technique. So that means mastering those fundamentals, mastering the basics, right? Let's say for nutrition, that is hitting your macronutrients, eating whole foods. That's 20%, but it gives you 80% of the outcome. So nailing the basics, majoring in the majors, before majoring in the minors is really important. And it's the same thing with the military. It's the same thing with lifting, same thing with nutrition. Like you can hyper obsess about where to put your mag carrier on your kit or belt or whatever, but 80% of the success is going to come from doing magazine changing drills. It's not, do I grab it like this? Do I grab it like this? Do I put it here? That's great. Those are the minors, but practice is the most important. Same thing for lifting. It's like, well, what should I do this exercise? Should I do this? What do I? It's like effort and consistency for a long period of time is 20% that's going to give you 80%. So I think a big approach to my training, and also something that I preach on my social media too when it comes to, say, strength and conditioning for combat sports, is because you see so much ridiculous stuff, is majoring in the majors, not majoring in the minors. It's like, yes, the little goofy exercise you're doing might be specific to this, but let's be honest, man. Get strong and fit for your sport and then go practice it.
Oh, man. I love that. I'm glad that we went there. Are there any daily habits or routines that you still follow from your time as an Army Ranger?
Definitely not getting up early.
My man. My man. Sorry, Jocko, if you're listening, but
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Because I'm up
never
late.
been a morning person.
Neither have I. Is your brain just turned on at night? Are you a late night guy?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get tons of work done later in the day than I do earlier in the day. I'm just not somebody that I like being up early. That's cool. But like when the alarm goes off in the morning and I feel like not great, I would rather take the extra hour of sleep and be more productive throughout the day than arbitrarily wake up early because it's like tough. I'm way more on the side of like I prioritize the sleep and recovery over the mental toughness aspect, which I totally respect, but like I don't need to prove that to myself anymore. I'm just gonna make the smart decision.
I like it.
Yeah.
Any
But
of-
in terms of, sorry,
No,
in
go
terms
ahead.
of like habits that I've carried over, I think it's been set. I went to Costa Rica last week for 8 days, but besides that, that was, also just say this, that was the first time that I had gone longer than probably 3 days without doing some sort of fit. And we were walking around the rainforest, but without doing some sort of physical training, jujitsu, lifting, running, whatever, in a decade.
Wow.
And so carrying that sort of discipline of I will get the work done. I don't want to say I love it. I enjoy it. I love
Yeah.
going to the gym. I love training, but carrying that sort of discipline of like, it's not a negotiable for me to go to the gym. It's not a negotiable for me to go to jiu-jitsu. These aren't like negotiable things like, oh, should I, or should, it's like, I will go. This is part of what I do. It's not how am I go.
Nice. I like it. So with that, do you have any advice for someone who's struggling with discipline or consistency?
I think from a personal standpoint, I think that building habits is like pushing a snowball in the way of it builds on itself over time. And if you've ever tried to start pushing a snowball or create one, the beginning is the hardest part because you have to, form the ball and it's teeny and you have to start rolling and it's awkward and weird and it collapses, it falls apart. And so the most important time to build a habit, or the most difficult time to build a habit, is in the beginning. And so getting through the beginning stages of any habit building or discipline building is always the most difficult. So when you need to start building those habits, you need to start telling yourself this isn't, while it is a forever habit, this feeling is temporary.
Yeah.
And when you feel those feelings, that should motivate you, like, okay, I'm getting over the hard part. I'm getting through this. Because once you've started that habit and once you've built that as this is a pattern, humans are very pattern oriented. Once you've built that, like these are the foods I eat. This is the training I do. I go out to jiu-jitsu Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's so much easier to keep that going. That's why we call it falling off the wagon when somebody breaks a habit. It's because when you're on that wagon, you're riding, it's going fast. It's easier, right? You're going. But then you fall off. Now you got to restart all over again. So when you are trying to build something, understand and accept there's no way around that it's going to be difficult, but understand the beginning is what's going to be the most difficult. Accept it and get through that phase first, because it does get easier.
Yes. So any of our listeners that just started training jiu-jitsu, I hope you heard that. And for any of our listeners that are wanting to do jujitsu, because it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously, this isn't a huge podcast. We don't have the impact like, Jocko and Joe and all these other guys towards jujitsu. But we have had people, which has been cool, that started training jujitsu because of this podcast. We've also had people that have grown closer to the Lord and, started following Jesus because of the podcast. And those parallels are the same on both of those. Your faith, when you first start walking down that road, it's going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of things coming your way. And earlier you said you're not a religious person. Neither am I. I just have a relationship with the Lord. I love Jesus. Yeah. I love God. And he's undeniable to me. Same for jiu-jitsu. It's hard when you first start training jiu-jitsu, but stick with it. It's the same thing when I was, wanting to become a Navy SEAL. When I started like training for that, it was hard, but I had to have the habit. So I hope our listeners really just marinate on what Roman just said, of just creating those habits. And the more disciplined you are with those habits, the more freedom that you're going to have. And I love that you said that. Okay. So you're training at, you're training jiu-jitsu in Tucson. How long do you stay there training? And then when do you decide to move to Texas and why?
Yeah, so let's see. I was training jiu-jitsu in Arizona I graduated college a little early, like 3.5 years. So I was training in Arizona for about 3.5 years. I actually ended up switching schools from 10th Planet to a more traditional school a little later on in the journey. I trained at Northside Jiu-Jitsu, which is a great school. If you're ever in the area, check them out. But around, let's see, this was 2023, mid to late 2023, I was like, okay, I'm in that same transitionary phase that I was in the Army of like, okay, I'm about to graduate college. What am I going to do next? So I was applying to, I was about to get a finance degree. So I was applying to finance jobs and I was talking to people in the industry. My brother had connections from like people that were like high up and not high up, but like had connections to like major financial institutions. And so I was talking to them. I was going through interviewing process of like, places like Charles Schwab. And like the idea was that I was going to go and start my career in the finance industry. And then I was like, okay, I am at the time 27 years old. I didn't make it in high school as an athlete, and that's always kind of stung for me. I have a few good years left in this body.
Yeah.
Before I go and dedicate my life to an office job, I want to make one more run at
Nice.
trying to make it as an athlete. I think I have it in me. I'm good at jiu-jitsu. I took gold at American Nationals at Purple Belt. That was
Nice.
the highest I'd ever done at Purple Belt. But I was always like right on the cusp of I would lose by like an advantage at Worlds. Like I couldn't crack that like next step. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a run at this. And so the plan was always to move to Austin, but it wasn't to just fully pursue jiu-jitsu. It was like move there with a job in the finance industry and then, like, train jiu-jitsu as well. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually make a run at this. So we moved to Austin. We get to Austin. I train under John, training my butt off all year. And I'm running into some injuries here and there, but I'm just training through them, kind of just being a meathead. And I had a bunch of success with local and regional stuff. I won like cash brackets in like Colorado. I won IBJJF Opens double gold at Dallas and Houston. I was doing well. We were winning team events. Like I was winning a bunch of stuff. And then at I don't know, maybe 8 weeks before the world championships, my right knee was in like pretty serious deteriorating health. It was locking and train. It had been locking and training for a few months, but it was getting to the point where like I knew the exact movement. Like I could just lock my knee at will. It would just catch like this and it would stick. And so I'd be training and my knee would lock and I would like limp off the mats and pop my back in and then continue training. It was rough. It was really rough. So I went to the VA and I was like, I am competing. Like whether or not you schedule me for this surgery, I'm competing at the World Championships in December. It's happening December 12th. So I want to get surgery on my knee, but I'm doing that first. So let me know what the surgery options are available. So they booked me for surgery Monday of when I was competing at the Nogi World Championships like Saturday. So I fly out to Vegas to compete in the World Championships. And literally my side of the bracket is just like murderer's row. My first match
As
is
a brown
against
belt or
like the
purple?
double. Say again.
This is as a brown belt, correct?
Brown
Okay.
belt adult. Yep. So
Jeez.
ultra heavy. My first match is against the double gold European and gi world champion currently at brown belt. I end up heel hooking him in like 45 seconds. I'm like, oh, sweet, riding high. Second guy is the guy from the last year's podium. I hit a inverted armbar to triangle and Americana. Take him out. I'm like, let's go. Here we go. I'm rolling. Third guy, 80cc veteran, winner of the European 99 plus kilos trials. Squeak out a technical victory against him, like 6-3 or something, or 6-4. I wrestled up, took him down, took his back, and he passed my guard. So I squeak out a victory over him. And then get to the finals, which is 6 weeks prior to this. I beat this guy in a cash bracket. And so I'm like, I saw him on the other side of the bracket, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm gonna win this. And I'm riding off all these wins. But unfortunately, in my semifinal match against this 80cc veteran, we just had this like physical war. So I'm just destroyed. Get to the finals, get ankle locked. So I'm like, oh boy, that's a big hit. So it's like my greatest jujitsu achievement is coming up short, which hurts. But it is what it is. I do have like I have medaled at Nogi Worlds, which is dope.
Yeah.
Then I go into surgery literally 72 hours later. And all of a sudden, I go from winning all this stuff, training my butt off, medaling at Nogi Worlds to nothing.
Wow.
Can't train, can't do anything. I could lift, but just like upper body stuff. But I can't do jujitsu. I don't have a job, right? Like that was my job, if you want to call it that. So I have like what I feel like is a complete dead end in my life. And I was going through like kind of personal stuff in the background with my girlfriend and just there it was like a really tough time. It was a dark place in my life because it wasn't just things are bad, but it was like things are about to get really good for me. I'm about to take that next step in jujitsu, and now all of a sudden it's just rock bottom. And so I was like, okay, I have to make something of this situation. It can't just be, this is not the end for me. What can I possibly do during this time? And so I invested like $5,000 in like a camera and a lens and all this stuff and computer. And I was like, I'm going to make it on social media if it kills me. And so I started posting for 166 straight days, which is when I hit 100,000 followers a week ago. For 166 straight days, I posted 1 to 3 times every single day. I put something on my story, put like 5+ stories on my story every single day. And I focused not on just trying to get views, but putting the most valuable content I could out possible of the 10 years of experience I had in the military, lifting, nutrition, jujitsu, everything. I just put everything I possibly could out for free. And it paid off.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And so that's what I do now.
Okay. So talk to us about the personal training that you do, the online coaching, and then also, obviously also what you're still doing for jiu-jitsu, who you train with, who you train under, and how that's, shaping who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So the one-on-one coaching I do is I train people for basically 3 different things. So one is combat sports athletes, strength and conditioning and nutrition for them, getting them to be bigger, faster, stronger, better athletes. The second one, which is honestly a lot of fun too, working with like kind of professionals, like busy professionals, people. Like I had a client who's like a chef in Japan, getting them fat loss goals, muscle growth goals. A lot of them come to me because they also do jiu-jitsu too, and they're trying to find a balance between the lifting, the eating, and the jiu-jitsu because it's difficult to lift and do jiu-jitsu together, synergize those two together. And then the third thing that I've just recently opened up, and I stayed away from it for a while because it didn't super interest me, but I got a lot of people asking me about it, which is sort of like military or special operations prep.
Nice.
So if you want to prepare physically and honestly mentally too for say a selection process or just going into the military, I offer that as well, where I can help people prepare physically and get in shape and prepared specifically for like PT tests or things like that. So
That's
those are kind of
awesome.
the 3 things I do with that. And then I have some other things like I have a Train Heroic training teams, which is kind of like group programming. So I go, okay, if you want to do a 2-day, 3-day, or 4-day split, you can jump on one of these teams, and it's kind of a group training thing.
Nice.
But those are the coaching things that I do. And then I train at Kingsway Jiu-Jitsu, which is the school that was just recently founded by Gordon Ryan and Jon Danaher. Those are the head coaches. And I've been training under John for about a year and 8 months or so. But now that we have that kind of like flagship school, that's where I train mostly. And I train a lot less now than I would love to do because obviously the businesses are doing well and those take up a lot of my time. But I try to get in there multiple times a week, train my butt off, and give the best rounds I can to everybody who is preparing for stuff. I have friends, obviously the guys just competed at CGI.
Yeah.
I helped them with like wall wrestling rounds and stuff.
That's rad.
I help guys prepare for trials or whatever it is they're preparing for. I do plan on getting back to competing soon,
Good.
but it isn't at the forefront, at least for me right now.
Awesome. How can people contact you, link up with you, or get more information on the coaching that you do?
Yeah, for sure. So all my social media besides YouTube, that's just Roman Mori, it also is labeled Roman Jiu-Jitsu on there as my name. But all my social media is TikTok and Instagram is Roman Jiu-Jitsu. And then you can get in contact with me. You can either send me a DM on Instagram, or you can book a call with me on my link tree, which is linked on my Instagram and my TikTok. Love to talk to you if you're interested in the one-on-one coaching side of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. If any of our listeners are just thinking about it, do it. Because I love your content. I love your page, and the value that you provide is pretty incredible. What's the time frame for you to compete again? What are you thinking? San Antonio
I
coming
think
up into September?
here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to be half in, half out, and then go and show up to Nogi Worlds and just like half a it. Like I
Yeah,
don't. That's
yeah.
not who I am as a person. I don't want to just like go and just give it a mediocre shot, like, oh, I'm still in this. So I think when I have a little bit more streamlined time in terms of my day to day, because obviously a lot of this stuff for me is new. I'm still figuring out how to really compartmentalize this to create a better working and life balance. But right now, some days I work from like 9 to midnight, where it's
Yeah.
just like everything I'm doing is just all it's tough. So when I get my feet a little bit more in to jiu-jitsu and I'm able to be consistently training and I feel like, okay, I'm ready to go again, that's when I'll step back out there onto the mats.
That's cool. Lucas, what questions do you have for Roman?
Well, I just want to compare our competition history. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Roman, just brace yourself for this one.
No, I'm not
just
gonna.
kidding.
I'm not gonna force him to know about my my 1 month I spent as a top 10 white belt in the world.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. Oh heck yeah.
No, do not encourage it. Do not encourage it.
10 people had not competed in my category, and I lost all my matches. But because there was no one else ranked, I was top 10. So one of the big things you talked about that really intrigued me was preparing to fight a near peer force, and just how different that training was versus everything that you guys had done before. Was that something that within your group, was that something that was exciting? Was it something that was intimidating? Was it something that maybe you guys had as you're preparing for it, like emotionally and from an anxiety standpoint or excitement standpoint, whatever? How did that impact y'all and the way that you were training?
Yeah, it was extremely anxiety inducing and a little bit probably terrifying, because fighting somebody that's not a near peer is a definitely different experience. Like the cards are stacked for you, not against you. And it was very anxiety inducing to hear the news of who we might be engaging with. And then when we got back, it started to materialize that we weren't actually going to go do this. So it lost its like spark. It lost its value and turned into misery for the sake of misery instead of misery to prepare you for something that might happen. But in the beginning stages of knowing we were going to get back and potentially go jump into a country that might be, a near peer force that was kind of scary for sure.
Yeah. It seems like it would be like not only a little bit scary, but also like kind of the mindset of all the guys that I know that have been either in the Rangers or some of the SEALs that we've gotten to meet since I've been doing this podcast. Like that sort of gets you guys a little bit fired up too, of like, hey, we're about to find out who the best is.
Yeah.
And
changes the way you think about things.
Yeah, for sure. So there's that. Then the next thing I wanted to talk about, you've talked a lot about your competition history and how you were preparing and moving in that. Why do you think it is that jiu-jitsu has captivated your attention so much? Like, why did it become such a big thing for you? I understand like the getting excited about training and finding that sort of purpose outside, but why did you choose, hey, you know what? Jiu-jitsu is what I'm going to pursue over the degree, over everything else, because it's really captivated like a big piece of who you are.
Yeah, I think jiu-jitsu is really special in the sense of it's one of the few sports that knowledge has so much power. There is physicality to jiu-jitsu, there is mental toughness to jiu-jitsu, there's conditioning. All these things play into any physical sport in the same way that it plays into wrestling, football, whatever. But in football, there's like me, and then there's some defensive lineman or defensive end that can just run through me, no matter how knowledgeable about football I am. Like there's just at some point, no knowledge will ever overcome in many sports, probably most of the popular sports that we know. To be honest, knowledge doesn't matter that much. It matters, but not that much. In jiu-jitsu, it kind of seems like knowledge is so much bigger of a piece of the pie. And so because of that, there's this obviously we've heard like the Joe Rogan comparison of like chess with dire consequences type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's like there is this component of jiu-jitsu where knowing more things, being more intelligent, being more tactically proficient, being the person that has more experience can overcome a larger, better, more athletic opponent. And so something that was really cool for me is I was always athletic. I was always good, but I wasn't, I don't have a 40-inch vert, right? So what I lacked in the raw athletic abilities, I could always make up for with the intelligence. So what I found a lot of times is if people were a little bit smaller than me at like say competitions in open class, I would be bigger and stronger than them. But if people were bigger than me, I almost always certainly was much better at jiu-jitsu than them. So I was in this cool zone for me that's like I kind of call like the Gordon Ryan zone of like you're bigger than people that are like small and super technical, but people that are bigger and stronger, you're so much better at jiu-jitsu than them. Because for you to be bigger than 225, 235 pounds, it's unlikely that you ever will get good at jiu-jitsu, like in the way that requires you to be really good. So I feel like there's this kind of Goldilocks zone of jiu-jitsu that's somewhere between 205 to 240 pounds, where they're bigger and stronger than anyone smaller, and they're far better than anyone bigger. And it was cool because I got to be raised in that sort of Goldilocks zone of like, I can be good at jiu-jitsu because I'm smart and I'm athletic.
I like that.
That's rad. So, and my last one is, you're training with a team that got to compete at CJI. And outside of any turf toe jokes, because they've already all been made on YouTube, I'm curious, is that something that long term that you would aspire to do? Like, hey, you know what? In the next 4 years, I'd like to be on that competition team, to be at whatever CJI number that would be.
I think a year ago that was like the dream. Where I'm at right now, in terms of I have this thing that is doing unbelievably well for me. It's tough for me to shift focus to something that, to be honest, is a bit of a poor man's sport. The $1 million tournament is few and far between, but me betting on myself and building my own business is not a risk and it's not a gamble because I'm betting on me. And so, yes, I still would love to pursue athletics at a high level, but not at the expense of costing me like my business.
Man, you're
Welcome to maturity.
I was
Like that's it. Like we've all had to make that decision, man.
You know where I was going.
Yeah,
I was just going to say,
dude.
Roman, the amount of maturity and wisdom that you have at the age of 29 is incredible. You're going to do some incredible things in business and in life. And I think that's rooted in your humility. Obviously, your parents instilled that into you and your brother at a young age. It's no shock to me as we've done this episode to hear what you just said, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, as a fan of jiu-jitsu, like, selfishly, I want to watch you compete at CJI. You know what I mean?
It kind of sucks a little bit.
You know, like as a fan, I'm like, you know, because I'm 42, I'm old, I'm broken. Like I am the hobbyist, right? You know, I'm just that is me. Now I love getting hard rounds in. I train at double five under Formiga, and we have some just absolute killers up there. It's mostly the gi. You guys are mostly no gi, so two different worlds. I used to do MMA, so that was my no gi days, and it's funny because I used to absolutely only love no gi. And then as I got older, I was like, I like the gi because
it's nice to have a jacket. It keeps me warm.
But just as like a fan of the sport, you know, if I was being selfish, I would be like, man, I want to see you keep competing. But from my perspective as an older guy who, you know, has a few businesses and, you know, works at Echelon Front, and I get to work with leaders all around the world, your maturity is incredible. And I'm just super proud of you, man. I'm super proud of your service, everything that you did for our nation. I'm very thankful for, and everything that you're doing for people all across the world with your online coaching is awesome. I mean, there's no denying that you're delivering impact and value to people, which is really important. And that's a great mission that you have in life. So I know Lucas is going to close it out with some final things from our sponsors. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you this question, kind of just think about it. And you can share this at the very end. But if you could leave our audience with one piece of advice to help them win on the mat in business or life, what would it be? So I just want you to kind of think about it. And then also, you are also a partner. You just became a co-owner with a company, correct? Can you tell us about that real quick? And then Lucas is going to close it out with some sponsor stuff, and then we'll get back to that question.
For sure. So my first sponsor ever was Choju Life on Instagram. They're an electrolyte and amino acid company.
How do you spell that?
We started out just, you know, my very first sponsor on social media ever. He's a really great guy. He's also a veteran.
Nice.
And he's actually in the Austin area. And after that little contract was expired, he said, hey, man, if you're interested in a better offer, I'd love to talk to you more about this in person. So I met up with him in person. We talked about it, and he does kind of a digital marketing for other supplement companies. He wanted to start his own because he's like, well, I'm good at this. Why would I do this for anybody else? But he just didn't want to do it by himself anymore. And he was like, you're good at social media. I'm good at the business building. I have the connections. I have the manufacturing. Let's partner up and let's make this as a team thing.
Nice.
And so we partnered up on that. And now I co-own a supplement company. And hopefully we can kind of do the same thing that Jocko is doing in the supplement space as well for combat sports and jiu-jitsu is, you know, make good products for combat sports athletes.
There is plenty of room for good companies to have good products, you know. And so how do you spell that, and what's the website?
So it's Choju, CHOJU. And if you type that in, it should come up on Instagram.
Okay. Awesome, man. And you said it's electrolytes and amino acids?
Yeah,
together.
So it is an electrolyte. It's technically a recovery blend for like a post-training environment.
Nice.
So the idea is you have the electrolytes, hydration for like post-training sweating a lot.
Cool.
And then it has all 9 essential amino acids. So if you eat a meal with post-training, it's going to help facilitate the actual muscle protein synthesis of that.
Dude, let's go. That's awesome. Lucas, what do you got?
All right. Well, as Roman ruminates on how he wants, I was working on that while you guys were talking, on how he's going to answer that final question. We do want to make sure that everybody's following us on Instagram. If you guys want to be part of the conversation, if you've already liked and subscribed and checked out stuff on YouTube, go over to Instagram, follow at JP Dinnell, at JP Dinnell Podcast. I'm at Lucas Pinkert, and Roman is at Roman Jiu-Jitsu. Our partners over at First In Nutrition also help us out with our Hump Day Health Hacks on Wednesdays. And if you want to get 4 free weeks of training from the folks over at First In, you can do that by going to firstinnutrition.com/JPPod. And if you time it right and you're getting ready for that competition that you got coming up, you see those numbers on the horizon and realizing you got to lose a little bit before you get on the scale. Holler at them and they'll get you set up. All of this, though, is made possible by our friends over at Echelon Front, with the third book of the trilogy coming out by Dave Burke, The Need to Lead by former Top Gun instructor. You can also catch Dave Burke, Leif, Jocko, all of those guys on the Extreme Ownership Online Academy, which has meetings on Monday afternoons. You can get part of that live call where you can holler at all of those guys, get your questions answered in real time, as well as all of the courses that they have on the EO Academy. And then once you realize what you got going on there, why don't you get registered for the muster coming up in December? We're going to be in Orlando this time around. Yep. So... which is going to be really cool. If you've never been to one of the Echelon Front live events, not only is the value tremendous, but you get so much information in that time. The workbooks that they have are awesome, things that we use daily, as well as get a little Q&A from the people standing right there in front of you. It's not like these other conferences where Jocko and Leif and JP, they go into the green room and have little tiny sandwiches and wait for the next time they come out. No, I mean, they're out there with you, answering your questions, working on your stuff, and even role-playing with you in order to make sure that your problems get solved.
We also have a few spots left with the post-muster FTX left. FTX 17 that's coming up actually next week when this is released is sold out. We have a handful, like a small handful of spots for FTX 18 in October as well.
Right on.
So yeah, the training's coming up with Echelon Front. They're selling out. It's awesome, and looking forward to seeing our listeners there, man.
I was so proud when Roman said FTX. I was like, I know what that means. Even as an NCC, I know what FTX means.
He made up a thing, Roman, called the NCC, the non-commissioned civilians.
That's what we are. That's what we are. There's a legion of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, check out echelonfront.com. And if you want one of the instructors at Echelon Front to work with you, or maybe you need some private business coaching, holler at them at info@echelonfront.com. Then that brings us to our next group, which is the folks over at Little Cattle Co. So go to littlecattle.co. They got beef sticks. They still got a little bit of that Apex blend ground beef, which is the ground beef with the essential organs. You got some heart, you got some kidney, you got some liver in there to make sure that you keep all of your nutrients up in tip-top shape, as well as the beef tallow products. You got your After Suns care, you got your itch cream, and then you got your regular tallow stuff because you know what? You're looking a little ashy. So grab it, put it on there, and take care of your skin. If you need any apparel printing done, go check out at On The Path Printing for all your apparel printing needs. They did some really cool stuff for Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, which we got to showcase this weekend. Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, of course, is a ministry that both JP and I are a part of. We get to do regular Jiu-Jitsu seminars throughout the year with top-level competitors like Marcus Buchecha, who we got to see out there. He was hanging out. We also got to see Demetrius Johnson.
Nice.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. He was really nice. And then a good friend of yours and the show, Jason Khalifa, came by the booth when we were at Jiu-Jitsu Con, got a shirt. He went 1-on-1 this weekend, and it was really cool just getting to see all of these people who we've got some connections with through Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. And a shout out not only to our professor over at Double Five for going double gold this weekend, but also to one of his opponents, Josh Hinger, who shared a testimony with us, spent some time there sharing the gospel with people, which was really cool. And it's just a reminder that Jiu-Jitsu is bigger than the schools that we go to because of what it does for our community, and then most of all, the Lord is who can be magnified through all of that. So check out Jesus and JujitsuUSA.com to get in on some of that stuff. If you're in the Austin area, and even if you're not, and maybe you want to get on with some of the gear that these guys used whenever they're deployed out in the field, go check out Bruiser Arms. It's JP Leif? I almost call him Lako. I almost combined those two. JP Leif and Jocko have a company where they put together custom gear packages and training. You can go to the training facility down there, shoot them a message at Bruiser Arms, and finally...
We just did a custom staccato for Sean Ryan.
Oh, really?
And he just posted a video of him shooting it. Bro,
that's awesome.
That weapon setup that we put together for him is awesome. And your man Gordon got one of our weapon setups as well.
I think I saw that too. Those are sweet.
Yeah. Not too shabby.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. And finally, to the folks that keep us clothed and fueled, to the people over at Origin and Jocko Fuel. I'm just mixing everything. My dyslexia has reached its peak at this segment of the program. Yep. But go check out Origin's got a bunch of new stuff, and they're registering for Immersion Camp 2026. 2025 just wrapped up. And if you go check out the feedback and stuff from there, go look at some of the videos. It's an absolutely incredible time.
They're halfway sold out already.
Already halfway sold out, yeah. So go check that out. Make sure that you register for Immersion Camp. And if you go to jockofuel.com and use code JPPOD20, it'll save you 20% on everything over there. So we got the electrolytes, we got the Jocko Fuel, which is what keeps us going and what's keeping my dyslexia just barely at bay here with all the nootropics in it. The creatine that's there, the krill oil, which if you use krill oil, that's great. The super krill, it's got just a little bit extra in there, keeps those joints a little bit more fresh. And I know not all of us are young 29-year-olds that are just,
jacked.
Yeah, young, dumb, and full of inspiration like Roman. That there are some of us that are on the 40 is just a few weeks away from me. So whatever that is that's in the super krill, it's keeping me from making all the dad noises. I got out of bed this morning and didn't even go. So thank you to Jocko Fuel and Super Krill for making that happen. Oh, bro.
Yeah, we'll get you some Jocko Joint Warfare.
Yeah. Well, all right, we'll send it over to JP for some final thoughts.
Awesome. Again, Roman, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to be on here. I know how busy your schedule is, as you just explained to our listeners. You're a dedicated coach to thousands of people across the world. And I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your stories and your lessons. I know I got a lot out of this episode myself, some things just that I needed to hear again, things that reminded me of my time in the SEAL teams and just hanging around good Americans that just are getting after it. And you're definitely one of those guys. Thank you for your service, everything that you did for our nation. Thank you to the men in your regiment for everything that they did. And, I also know that this episode was a cool way to honor your fallen teammate, man. And I know that's something that you think about every day, as I think about my fallen teammates every day. And I just want to say that from what I've seen of you and from what I heard today, like, I know he's proud of you, man. I know he's proud of you. And so are your teammates, man, because you're representing the U.S. Army at the highest level. And there's a reason why Rangers lead the way. So I appreciate you being here. Again, going back to that question, if you could leave our audience with one piece of advice to help them win, whether it's on the mat, in business, or in life, what would it be?
Yeah, so let me just start with thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome talking to you guys. So yeah, let me start this question by saying everything that I have accomplished in my life that is extremely valuable to me, every accolade, every achievement has all started from a place of failure. I dropped out of college and I went and became an Army Ranger. I failed college the first time, went and got a degree at 27 years old. I, injured my knee and I'm sitting at home with nothing, a darkest place in my life, just horrible spot. And I start a successful business. Failure is not losing until you give up. So if you're going through a place in your life where you are feeling like a failure, you feel like you have reached the end of the road, that is the best time to start something new. That is, always try to take advantage of every opportunity you have, because failure is opportunity if you see it that way. It's only failure if you decide to give up. So if you are sitting out there and you're wondering, how do you become whatever? How do I get to this goal? How do I get to that goal? Realize that it is capable if you actually, and I don't want to make this corny of like, and you can do anything you put your mind to, but realize that failure is not the end. Yeah. Failure is the beginning.
Nice. Well, with that, Roman, I again thank you. And to our listeners, I hope this episode has been a reminder to go do the work that is needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 102.